Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Ladies and gentlemen, the culture war is entering fourth quarter. Globalists versus nationalists. Nationalists in the yellow jerseys. And it looks like there's a little bit panic in the deep state locker room. Check this out. Meanwhile, in the QAnon camp, cool as the other side of the pillow. John, how many we got today?
10.
Yes, sir. Let's start right here. 2567, 39 minutes after the hour of 1 p.m. We get this graphic right here. We're going to talk about that in just a second. And we get two links here. The first one is to 4chan. And I think Q is directing us probably to this top comment right here. It says, hey there, Shill. Are you sitting down? This might be hard to hear. You know that Q fella and how he's able to predict events to the date a year in advance? What if I told you that fella's name was Donald J. Trump? What if I told you that you can never leave this place and Trump was a poster here? Imagine if you were president and your posts were a matter of public record. How would you keep posting here? You would LARP. You would create a new John Miller. John Miller is a reference to an alias many people believe Donald Trump to use before he was president, sort of an unofficial spokesman for the Trump Corporation, if you will. And of course, many believed it was Trump himself. He would return calls and things like that. You can hear some of that stuff online. It's rather humorous, and it does seem to be President Trump himself. So he was trolling back then, and this is just more proof that he was trolling back then. This graphic is actually from 4chan, a couple proofs here. And let me take you to the upper left-hand corner here. You can hardly see this here, but in the upper left hand corner, this is a Twitter handle of a Patriotic Pepe, and this was from back in July 30th 2016, and he tweeted, "You are our only hope, Mr. Trump." Now what seemed like not too longer after that, Donald Trump responds at Patriotic Pepe, "Only Trump can unite America and fix Obama's mistakes." And again, that was back in 2016, July 30th. And of course, everybody freaked out. And then we saw this here during this thread on 4chan. I tweeted this to show I listen. This is the only post I will make. And the person who makes this graphic here says he walks among us, being DJT. So further down on this thread, we get an Anon who says, "Mr. Trump, if you actually do lurk here and you like this meme, please use the word amazing somehow in your next tweet. This will be a wink and a nod on the down low that you appreciate all of us here. Thank you, MAGA." And so this was kind of how this all began. Now, this is well before Q was doing any posts, but this was sort of how it was going down. And you see here the very next tweet, and it's actually this right here. "Colorado was amazing yesterday. So much support. Our tax, trade, and energy reforms will bring great jobs to Colorado and the whole country." And as you can see, he uses the word amazing, still on the 30th of July. So this was kind of how it all began. And I think Q is pointing out that Donald Trump, not just Q, has been lurking this whole time. Q says, "Scot-free, where we go one, we go all." Scot-free being the production company, Ridley and Tony Scott, those brothers that made the movie White Squall. White Squall uses the reference, where we go one, we go all. There's a lot of references in this movie that QAnon refers us to. Where we go one, we go all is also seen on the bell of JFK, one of JFK's boats. There you can see the picture right there. Air Force One code changed to Q0. We saw that the other day on the 7th when Q was up in Air Force One. They changed the call sign to Q0. Q0 being Q plus being POTUS. Q and POTUS, Twitter, Zero Delta exchanges. Yeah, over the months, if you've been following my video or others, if you've been just following QAnon at all, you've seen that there's been a lot of correlation between Q posts and POTUS tweets. Oftentimes, the Zero Delta meaning 0 seconds in between those exchanges. Sometimes maybe just a few or whatever, depending on some sort of delay or whatever, but very, very close, meaning that whenever Q is posting and POTUS is tweeting, oftentimes you can see the close correlation between the two. Fake news, coordinated attacks. Number 2, only to POTUS. Yeah, the only people that are hated almost as much as President Trump are us and QAnon followers. How do you safely and securely communicate through a back channel with the public and bypass the fake news media? Well, I think we learned this back in 2016, right? You just go ahead and post on random boards. And this isn't the first time, really. Q is not the first sort of phenomenon like this, but it's most certainly a very potent one. And President Trump knew the power of this a while back, and I think that that is what Q is turning us on to, is the fact that this was how you do it. You do it under this sort of quote-unquote LARP, if you will. It's a role player, right? How do you safely and securely communicate without breaking the law and violating national security? So look, all this stuff that we're getting here is open source material. It's just well directed. That's really the only difference here. So people can say what they want about cult this and cult that. We know better. And that argument has gotten so old to us now because we really, really know better. The fact of the matter is that there's nothing that we could be doing here that would violate national security. Otherwise, it would negate the whole thing. We need to be able to do this the right way. The information is already out there and available to us in the first place. That's why Q has always said you have more than you know. Add multiple layers of coincidences, which mathematically proves legitimacy. Standard deviation. At what point do people wake up? Yeah, I don't know what to say. We've got tweet after tweet after post after post after proof, and people still don't want to buy it. And I think that's completely fine. But I think at this point, the burden of proof is on the accuser. So if they want to accuse us of being a cult, that's fine. Go ahead and try to prove it. And I think Q saw this all along happening because this was very likely probably going to be some sort of source. I wouldn't be surprised if some sort of, if the deep state eventually works into some legal action against QAnon in some way, shape, or form. So it would be really, really important to add these multiple layers of coincidences. And of course, we call them coincidences, but we know that these are things that are so pinpoint that it would be very hard to label a coincidence after a while. Standard deviation, using that empirical rule that we talked about the other day. What are all the chances of this being a LARP at this point?
902 billion, 46
Exactly. Let's move on to the next post. Post 2568, 47 minutes after the hour, 1 p.m. Q takes us back to this tweet from the Trump train. This was on November 28th, and it features all your deep state baddies. Yep, there's the all-stars right there behind bars. You got Robert Mueller, Podesta, Barack Hussein, and you got Rod Rowe, Hillary, Huma, Holder, oh my, Clapper, Clinton, Comey, and Aunt Loretta Lynch. And it says, now the Russia collusion is a proven lie. When did the trials for treason begin? Okay, well, no big deal. A lot of you guys have seen this already. The big deal was that President Donald J. Trump retweeted, and of course that started a hailstorm. Q takes us to this Twitter link of one of our favorite homies, John Podesta. He's been quiet lately. He's responding to a tweet from Andy Kroll, who says it's painful and crazy. Former Clinton campaign chair John Podesta says about being the victim of the Pizzagate conspiracy theory. I'm pretty grizzled, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so we just had this piece out regarding John Podesta, and he's coming out talking about what a victim he is because he's a Democrat, and Democrats are victims, right? He says, let the 4chan lunatics and QAnon crazies commence. Okay, so while at the same time being a victim, you go on the attack. Thanks, John Podesta. Project much? And that's what Q says. Define projection. Define getting ahead of the story. What is scheduled to happen this week? Well, that's going to be Huber right on the 13th. Coincidence? Panic, panic, panic. This is as real as it gets. And Q's going on caps lock right here. God, dog. Are we talking about Adam Schiff somehow? Is there a reference here to Adam Schiff, little Adam Schiff? After all, we talking about little kids and we're talking about Podesta. When we talk about Podesta, you know we're talking about little kids. Q says no escape, no deals. And then Q asked to add Brennan to the graphic and update. Evil has no place here. Q, that's funny because that's actually one of the first things we all noticed when we saw this come out the first time was that Brennan was not there. So let's add Brennan to the list. Now, just yesterday, we got this tweet from President Donald J. Trump. Democrats can't find a smocking gun tying the Trump campaign to Russia after James Comey's testimony. No smocking gun. No collusion at Fox News. That's because there was no collusion. So now the Dems go to a simple private transaction, wrongly call it a campaign contribution. He goes on into a second tweet talking about Michael Cohen and all his misdeeds and whatnot. So the point is here is that he mentions this word smocking not once, but twice. And of course, if you look down below at all these tweets, you can see a lot of people are smocking him. Hey, there is a smock. Actually, some of these are pretty funny. To kill a smocking bird. All right, fair enough. So what's up with this smocking? What is smocking, and why would he double down and put it twice? Well, according to Urban Dictionary, smocking is the painting of one's body to achieve sexual gratification. Okay, so I guess it's when you're kind of feeling yourself, but you're also a fan of Blue Man Group. All right, let's go back to John Podesta's tweet. Oh, look at that right there. Is that John Podesta? Are you smocking? Are you smocking? My goodness, look at you. Good Lord. You look like a Mike and Ike. All right. And over there, who's that on the left? Oh, no. Is that Valerie? If she had a dress, she wouldn't wear it. Jarrett, God, dog, you guys are walking around smocking? What is that you're drinking, too? That's creepy stuff. Never drink things that are fluorescent. No. Don't put those things in your body. That's not a good idea. Okay, so this is nice and thoroughly creepy. Some of our DC elite looks like they're smocking us. Well, if we know anything about projection, and we most certainly do, we know that it looks like another wave of Q hate. Probably some Pizzagate hate is going to come on out. They're going to start pumping up John Podesta to be this victim like they already are, getting ahead of the story. And of course, they just want to make sure that none of this smocking comes to light. And of course, you'll never hear this in the smocking bird media, will you? Because they've made a smockery of this all. Well, the panic is very, very real, because if that does come to light, God help them all. This is as real as it gets. No escape, no deals. That part has already passed, ladies and gentlemen, and anybody left playing is left playing for keeps at this point. And it looks like John Brennan is one of them. But it also looks like John Podesta is starting to freak out. Who knows what else we're going to find in some more of these emails. But I think we all know exactly where this leads to with our boy Skippy, and he most certainly would not like us to find out about all this smocking. Incidentally, if you go check out Urban Dictionary, you search Mac. A Mac can be a person who is smooth and slick, the best of the best, a pimp, a ladies' man, the guy who runs everything, aka the boss. A Mac is a person who is always flirting and hitting on girls, almost always successful at it too. Yep, that's a mostly true story. Yep. And if you want, I guess you could get a Mac mug for your father-in-law, Jose. Huh. That must be like a future proves past thing. Let's move on. Post 2569, 52 minutes after the hour of 1 p.m. Q is taking us sort of through the process of when and how this whole Q thing was formed. POTUS. NSA, remember Admiral Mike Rogers, he was one of the first people to let POTUS know that he was being spied on in the first place. United States military. Then we have this G in parentheses. The Freedom Caucus established, and that was established back in 2015. That was the gig from Mark Misty Meadows and Jim Jacketless Jordan. Foreign and domestic Patriots 2015. So this has been going on for about 3 years, the fight to save the world. Q. Now, Q talked about this back on post 520. This was from January 13th, 2017. Now, I'm just reading part of this Q post here. The map is the key. Planned for 3 years. Corruption and evil deep within. Everywhere. Patience. There is no escape. There are no deals. Treason at highest levels. Now, in regards to this G in parentheses, I'm not really sure. Let me just show you what I found here from post 780. February 16th. Quote, there is no allegation in this indictment that any American was a knowing participant in this illegal activity, Rosenstein said. There is no allegation in the indictment that the charged conduct altered the outcome of the 2016 election. Future proves past. In an effort to preserve the integrity of all U.S. elections, as ordered by the President of the United States, after an extensive investigation in select counties, the sampling, the DHS has concluded that while Russian entities, as outlined within Special Counsel Mueller's investigation, were complicit in attempting to undermine the presidential election of 2016, had no direct impact or bearing on the outcome of the presidential election, nor were any U.S. persons knowingly part of such an attempt to sabotage as it relates to the Russian investigation. U.S. and other foreign entities, as further described within DHS XXXX, acting outside of Russian agents, did attempt on numerous occasions and were successful in interfering with the presidential election of 2016, Senate elections of XYZ, X elections whereby several million of illegal non-resident ballots, the irregularities, were counted, while legal ballots were improperly tabulated and or intentionally mishandled. We believe these actions were a coordinated attack against the democracy of our country. The DHS will be submitting a final report to the DOJ, being White House, DOJ, other state and local agencies, outlining our findings as early as March, and I think it was later on in March that this finally came out, 2018. While this report only encompasses a sampling of 22 counties across the U.S., it is strongly suggested, based on the evidence provided, that a mandated countrywide investigation begin under the recommended U.S. 50-EIC guidelines as set forth in Section 7 of the final report. Furthermore, based on our immediate findings, we recommend the adoption of a E, F, G, and H be made immediately to combat sources and methods currently being deployed to ... The remainder of this page is intentionally left blank, so I'm not really sure if maybe that is a reference to that G there. It's the only other time I've seen a G in parentheses in these Q posts. So could it be an article here in this that was in this final report? I've yet to go all the way through it yet, but I haven't found anything that seemed relevant to it, but it was in regards to the military. So I'm going to keep looking. You guys can let me know what you think, but I was wondering if that might be what we're talking about. Now let me take you back to December 5th of last year, post 269. Key unlocks the door of all doors, being info. Stone, the force, strength capable of yielding power to act on info. Key plus stone equals Q. And then in the next post, 270, Admiral Rogers, NSA, W and W, which we found out later to be wizards and warlocks, plus POTUS / U.S. military equals apply the keystone, paint the picture. So Q is letting us know what the keystone is. That's us, and together in unity with POTUS and the U.S. military. Paint the picture. Post 271, military intelligence, no such agency equals key. POTUS and Patriots equal the stone. Moving on to the next post, 2570, 53 minutes after the hour, 1 p.m. Looks like an Anon already got to work and fixed that meme. Oh, it does look better. It's so much more aesthetically appealing, isn't it? Yeah, there's our newest member right there. Got himself a seat in the front row, Mr. John. He's a brute by Menon Brennan. Thank you, Patriot Fire at Will Q. All right, so Patriots, if you want to get going on that meme, you could pass that bad boy around. Well, John Brennan didn't seem to be very happy about that. We find out in this next post, 2571, 58 minutes after the hour, 1 p.m. We get this Twitter link right here from Tony Schaefer, and he is referencing this John Brennan tweet. Let's read that first. He says, "Whenever you send out such inane tweets, I take great solace in knowing that you realize how much trouble you are in and how impossible it will be for you to escape American justice. Mostly, I am relieved that you will never have the opportunity to run for public office again." Okay, well, wait a minute. He gets one more chance, Brennan. That sounds like a bit of a veiled threat there. Well, Tony Schaefer, advisory board member for Trump 2020, says this: "Whenever we see you tweeting like a seditious clown, John Brennan, we know you are projecting your guilt and corruption in your own vile effort to continue to deceive the American people. You know how much blood you have on your hands and the treason you have committed. Tick tock." Q says public awakening equals game over. Post 2572, 7 minutes after the hour of 2 p.m. We get a Q proof here, and it is lined up in this nice little graphic. Q says, example 22A, 1 of hundreds. So if this is 22A of hundreds, then it looks like Q has already got these lined up, itemized, and ready to go just in case. Drops layered to provide advanced knowledge. Do not let them divide you. Panic button pushed. Q's on caps lock again. All right, so for those of you who are newer to QAnon, Q has always been asking us to really perfect our art of making memes. And the reason why it's so important is, well, it serves a couple purposes. A, to spread public knowledge now, but later on to be able to show what the truth really was. And so Q has always asked us to refine these memes, make sure that they get the dates right, the people right, this and that, even down to, like we just saw, asking to add John Brennan to a simple picture. Might seem like a simple task, but it has big meanings later. And we see that in this right here. So let me take you here. This is from a year ago. Q predicting the failed New York City suicide bomber. Okay, well, clearly Q is not necessarily a prophet, right? Not predicting, but seemed to have advanced knowledge of this New York City bombing attempt. And if you remember, it was sort of thwarted. The guy kind of blew himself up. He didn't really have any kind of dynamite or anything like that. He ended up just kind of, hurting himself a little bit, but not too badly. But this was from December 9th. Let me get this a little closer. And this points out here, Monday, December 11th is noted as an important day. And we see over here, tangent, expand your thinking. That's the 9th there. Blunt and direct time, initials are BDT. Also, the Bangladeshi currency is BDT. Evil, TikTok. And we see over here, we see this post. Blunt and direct time, Adam Schiff is a traitor to our country. Leaker, national security, evil, TikTok. Hope the 7.8 million was worth it. Enjoy the show. And then we see this false flag, expect fireworks. False flags, POTUS 100% insulated. Expect fireworks, justice, Q. Okay, so we knew that something was up with BDT because this was capital. And we didn't really know what blunt and direct time meant. We went kind of searching. I remember when I was searching, I came up on the Bangladeshi Taka, which is their national currency, which led me to think that something was going on either in Bangladesh. We weren't really sure. And then all of a sudden we got this the next day on December 11th. Man from Bangladesh attempted to suicide bombing in New York City. Explosive device failed. Bomb was as harmless as a firework. And here's the article on the right side. New York bombing suspect identified as Akayer Ullah, a 27-year-old Brooklyn resident from Bangladesh. Okay, so Q could come out and say, hey, look, a Bangladeshi man is going to walk on with some fireworks and, set it off. Couldn't go down like that. But this is sort of the beginning of how Q began to communicate with us and get things out and still be able to protect national security. That's the point. BDT equals Bangladesh currency. Like I said, that's what I found. And a lot of other people thought that blunt and direct time meant some other things too, and it very well may be. The attack was thwarted. These people are sick. And then here was the post. Do you believe in coincidences? Blunt and direct time, BDT. Think currency. Think fireworks. Thwarted. Message delivered. These people are sick. And this would have been the next day also on the 11th. So there is a classic Q proof right there. And it's laid out in classic form like Q says. Example 22A, 1 of 100. So this will be pretty amazing when we finally get to see it all. Now, I'm not really sure, what else Q is wanting to point out to that particular story other than just an example of one of many. Do not let them divide you. Panic, panic, panic. Button pushed. Let's move on. Post 2573, 47 minutes after the hour of 2 p.m. We get this quote right here from JFK. This was from his nomination speech back in 1960. The times are too grave, the challenge too urgent, and the stakes too high to permit the customary passions of political debate. We are not here to curse the darkness, but to light the candle that can guide us through that darkness to a safe and sane future. Wow, kind of chilling words when we sort of look back at it now and think about what was up and how it all went down. So, what do you think? Now, I know I don't talk a lot about this on this show, but do you think now that George H.W. is out of the way? Are we going to get some light shined on this JFK? That would be exciting indeed. Yeah, I think a lot of us would like to get some closure on that story. And of course, I don't think it would lead to closure. I think it would just lead to a whole lot more investigations. I think we all know that. But it would be great to finally see what's going on with that. And we know that President Trump has talked about it, so it remains to be seen. Now, I want to point out that this speech was included in this book here, Live from the Campaign Trail, the greatest presidential campaign speeches of the 20th century. And this book was written by one Michael A. Cohen. Well, I think Q is reminding us here exactly what is at stake. JFK knew it, and we all know what happened there. Many people after him, before him, knew exactly what was at stake. Donald Trump knows exactly what's at stake. You know it. I know it. The times are too grave, and that's for both sides. Look, this cabal, which is made up of, lots of these families that we constantly talk about, other people too, but predominantly bred out of these families, generation after generation. And all of a sudden, the people want their freedom. And you think they're just going to cough that up for us. After they've worked so hard and really, really put the time in. Like I said, generations, they were willing to pass that on to make this happen. The challenge too urgent and the stakes too high to permit the customary passions of political debate. Once you decide to go up against this machine, it's game on. And that's exactly what we've done. We've put it all out on Front Street right now, and so have they. Politics don't matter. I don't even see politics anymore. Do you? When's the last time we talked about politics? When's the last time we talked about policy? When's the last time we talked about passing a law or a bill or something like that? No, we're talking about flat out good and evil, light and darkness. And we're not here to curse the darkness, but to light the candle that can guide us through that darkness to a safe and sane future. And those, to me, are the most important words right there. Because when you're in a dark cave, you don't go seeking out the darker spots. You look for the light. And that's what we need to do. And at the beginning of this QAnon movement, there was a lot of darkness. Man, oh man, there was a lot of darkness. And we're slowly starting to reach the light. And that's not just because of Q. It's because of people like you and I, JFK, President Donald Trump, patriots around the world looking for the light, looking to claw until they get it. And that's exactly what we're going to discover, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to 2574. We get this nice little graphic here, 11 minutes after the hour of 3 p.m. From Ben Garrison, who always does really great artwork here. Is the Eiffel Tower whooping the crap out of what looks to be Macron. And Macron these days is not feeling the love from the people. No, he's about as popular as Hillary's book signing tour. He's about as popular as Zima in 2018. He's about as popular as the Star Wars franchise post-Disney. Yep, what I'm trying to say is he is not so popular. The people are fighting back. And of course, the media doesn't really want to portray this story at all. But when they do, they talk about basically this gas hike tax and whatever. This isn't really just about taxes, although it does have a lot to do with their income tax. But look, the people are sick of this globalism. They're sick of open borders. And the EU seems to be falling apart at the seams. And of course, the EU is threatening back, saying that, you know, anybody who leaves the EU is going to sort of feel the wrath. And we're seeing that with this Brexit issue all over Europe. Nationalism is starting to make a comeback. How about that? Well, people seem to like to keep their own money. People seem to like when they can preserve their own culture. And what people don't realize is when they're able to preserve their own culture, then we finally do have diversity, true diversity that we can actually celebrate. So this is great stuff, and another great piece of artwork here by Ben Garrison. And this Twitter link here just takes you to his status. So thank you for that, Ben Garrison. Let's move on to 2575. 20 minutes after the hour, 3 p.m., the plan to have the Fed raise rates, steep incline beginning March 2019 in an effort to kill the economy prior to 2020 presidential election is known and planned for. Structure change coming. Q. Well, Q has long talked about this structure change coming, and we're likely talking about the Federal Reserve. Now, how this goes down, I'm not really sure. We have a lot of different countries buying up a lot of gold, particularly Russia's been buying a lot of gold over the last few years. It seems like people are really going towards tangibles. How we're going to restructure this, I have no idea. Now, this was originally response to an Anon who had asked about abolishing the Fed, and Q just said restructure. And I think that's probably the most realistic. First things first, it seems that we need to audit the Fed. I would say after that, then I suppose we could talk about federalizing it. That's probably the eventuality. I don't really know how this is going to go down. I'm not much of an economist, but it does look like that's going to be the effort. It doesn't seem to be much of a surprise. The Fed has been raising rates like this, kind of going back and forth depending on the politics of President Trump's actions. So it's no surprise to know that as we walk into 2020, there's going to be a massive incline. So for those of you who are brilliant economists and you have plans, let us know what your brilliant videos are that you can share for people so that people can kind of prepare for this. It seems to me in times like this, it's always nice to have some sort of tangibles, whether it be precious metals or whatnot. And I know a lot of people are into the cryptocurrency. It's not really my kind of thing. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not an economist, so I won't begin to even try and tell you how to handle yo money. But it does look like some structure changes coming. And in the long run, although we're going to probably, experience some pain from this, I think this is essentially what we need to do, because the very people that are running this are the very people we're trying to get rid of, right? Let's move on to 2576, 24 minutes after the hour of 3 p.m. We get this Twitter link right here from the Twitter page of Samantha, charged by the hour power. Stop this, headline writers. If you want to quote this president in a headline, in an age where many people read only headlines, you must write, Trump, a proven serial liar, says, ... But best not to quote him in a headline. And this is in regards to this Reuters top news. Trump says prosecutors have found no evidence of Russian collusion. Okay, so Samantha Power with some major disrespect, talking about serial liars. Q says, those with the most to lose are the loudest. Those who knowingly broke the law in a coordinated effort, treason, are the most vocal. Crimes against humanity. And I guess Samantha Powers would be one of them. Let me rememberize you about Samantha Powers. This was from back in 2017 on Fox, September 2017. Samantha Power sought to unmask Americans on an almost daily basis, sources said. Samantha Power, the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, was unmasking at such a rapid pace in the final months of the Obama administration that she averaged more than one request for every working day in 2016. Yikes. And even sought information in the days leading up to President Trump's inauguration. Multiple sources close to the matter told Fox News. Two sources who were not authorized to speak on the record said the request to identify Americans whose names surfaced in foreign intelligence reporting, known as unmasking, exceeded 260 last year. One source indicated this occurred in the final days of the Obama White House. The details emerged ahead of an expected appearance by Power next month on Capitol Hill. She is one of several Obama administration officials facing congressional scrutiny for their role in seeking the identities of Trump associates in intelligence reports, but the interest in her actions is particularly high. Yeah, exactly. So, towards the end of the Obama administration, she was trying to get the goods on everybody. And of course, she was probably relaying that back to her favorite deep state knuckleheads. And at that level, Samantha Power, ambassador to the UN, and of course, definitely one of those lapdogs over there at the UN, probably giving all sorts of information all over the world. Sounds to me like treason. Sounds to me like Samantha Power is probably guilty of treason. And that is why she shows the kind of disrespect she shows in a tweet like this, calling our president a serial liar. When we know, Samantha Power, we know what you did. We know how many people you unmasked. 260 people in 1 year. Who are you looking for? What were you looking for, Samantha Power? Well, it looks like Samantha Power is feeling powerless, as she is probably one of the most vocal and has been for quite a while. And these are crimes against humanity. We're going to find out very soon exactly how deep this goes. But we are just clawing our way towards the light. Those are your Q posts for now. And here is your daily Q proof. As you can see down below, responding to an Anon who posted, please tweet the word knowledge on POTUS next tweet for one more coincidence. And as you can see, this was actually Donald Trump's last tweet here. Former FBI Director James Comey under fire for his testimony, acknowledging he knew that the Democrats paid for that phony Trump dossier at Lou Dobbs. Details on Tuesday night. So there you go, kids. Another Q proof. And finally, I am going to leave you with this from Judicial Watch. New Judicial Watch president Tom Fitton. I'll be testifying on behalf of Judicial Watch later this week on Capitol Hill on the pay-for-play scandal showing that Clinton Foundation donors were receiving special favors and treatment from the Clinton State Department. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Hi, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with breaking news on the Clinton Foundation pay-to-play scandal. I'll be testifying on behalf of Judicial Watch later this week to the House Oversight Subcommittee on Government Operations about the Clinton Foundation issue. Judicial Watch broke open this scandal with Freedom of Information Act emails showing that the Clinton Foundation donors were receiving special favors and treatment from the Clinton State Department. This controversy also includes the infamous Uranium One scandal. Judicial Watch is taking the lead once again on uncovering this information, and we're glad that Congress is finally on the case.
Now you're a man, a man, man, man. Now you're a man, a mounty, mounty, mount, a man, man, man.
All right, kids, those are your Q posts. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who already do that. I greatly appreciate everything that you do. If you are new to my channel, welcome to you. Please keep in mind that from time to time, you will get unclicked and unnotified and unsubscribed. That's the game that conservatives play online with social media these days. All my links are down below to my Gab and my BitChute, my Real.video, which is now Brighteon.com. That's Brighteon.com. And of course, I am over here on Twitter at IPOT1776. That's at IPOT1776. You can also email me. And if you'd like to support the channel, my Patreon link is down below too. All these links are down below. All right, kids, this is Sir Patrick Mack. And until next time, stay festive.